Good evening and welcome everyone to another edition of Friday with Friends. Tonight's friend, Erik Larson. Erik has been involved with the Brahma Kumaris for over 35 years, teaching and studying Raja Yoga. He's a director of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization in the USA. Currently, he's a representative to the United Nations and for the NGO Committee on freedom of religion or belief. With his experience in civil engineering, he blends the very practical with the very spiritual to find that beautiful balance and a common sense way to look at life and to help others. Hi, Erik.
Hello, greetings.
Good to see you. Long time no see.
It has been, but it's great to be here tonight with you.
I'm so glad that you're joining us. In fact, I'll tell you something, an aside, today's title is Stop the Spinning, Sit in the Center. And I'll share what I observed later on when a point comes up. So when you hear that title, Stop the Spinning, Sit in the Center, what comes up for you?
The first image was a playground, I guess a machine toy, where you would run around the outside and then jump on and you would spin around, get dizzy, great fun. But if you sat in the center, it was a different experience. And so that picture came to mind. And also, I'm not an ice skater and I'm not plugging the Olympics or anything, but if you've ever seen a group of skaters holding hands and then going around, the one in the center barely moves.
Absolutely.
But the one at the very end is really whipping around. And
they're whipping.
Those are some of the images about center and spinning and how I could see the
and those are very good images. I relate to those totally. And my experience of those is you get ill from all that spinning around. And I can recall also that as a child, I remembered this by thinking about this subject, is that I used to get car sick. And the only way that I could keep from getting sick was to keep my eye focused on the center line of the road and not pay any attention to the side scenes that are going on. And I'm thinking, wow, it's something that this is a really good method for getting through life in any way, that we really get so caught up in these side scenes that are around us. Can you expound a little bit on that? What side scenes means to you versus being in the center?
Yeah, side scenes, things that distract us, kind of pull our energy, whip us around, are scenes for me that don't directly involve me. I don't have to worry too much about if I don't want to. And there are lots of those. I learned a lesson. I'm in New York. And one time walking on the street, there was just this street knowledge coming out. And this was before COVID and people were coming off the train and walking down the street, and walked by Macy's and lots of people there. But there was a couple, they were a younger couple. And you'd bump into people, typically Manhattan rush hour, walking on the streets. And this guy bumped into someone and he turned around and he was ready to fight. And his girlfriend yanked him and said, "Come on, we can't pick a fight with everybody we bump into in Manhattan." Okay. And so that was some very wise ideas, that there's a lot of stuff that kind of brushes us or affects us or is around there for our getting involved in if we want to. But that day I was going to work and I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. And so that would have been a side scene, lots of different things, windows, walking on the street, very attractive. Maybe I should stop and think about my wardrobe. Those are not very important to really what I'm choosing to do. And so for me, commuting was the purpose. I kept going, but very wise things that happen around me that can pull my attention, but does that help me get to what I want to do if I want to do something?
I was just seeing all these, as you were saying that, seeing all those images in you. If you think of just our media today, you know, you're probably like me, that you can remember a time when there was only like 3 or 4 stations of television to watch.
Yeah.
And now there are hundreds of thousands plus everything else. And to try to catch all that's going on would be tumultuous. And so I'm thinking, it's a picture of one's own mind. It's a picture of one's own mind, of all that spinning going. We're always spinning something, aren't we?
It's what's interesting about it is the dichotomy, because everything has spin. Everything is in motion. There's a flow of energy. There's a flow of everything, and so it's spinning. The day spins. The calendars. I didn't thought about that in physics. I had to learn about electron spin, that they go up or down. There's some sort of, so I think it's built into our systems, our lives, the world. And so where are we in relationship to what's moving on? Are we moving with it and it's easy? Or are we kind of somewhere out of bounds and then we're getting kind of seasick or car sick or life sick, or some sort of illness comes in if we're fighting that?
You know, as another thing I did just earlier today, I was curious about spinning. And so I went to my main Google there to give me a source, and the Earth spinning, you know,
Yeah.
you realize at the poles, you know, at the North Pole and the South Pole, there is no speed because that's the central axis.
Okay.
But at the equator, the Earth is spinning 1,000 miles per hour.
Really? Okay.
1,000 miles per, that's pretty fast.
That's pretty fast. Pretty
And
windy,
so,
I would think.
yeah. And so some, like you said, it's all built in. And so the spinning is a part of it. What's important is my relationship to the spinning. And I was just thinking, what is your personal methodology of centering yourself in the spinning of life?
Big question, a lot of potential answers to that, but on a personal level, there is a lot that can pull your attention, and sometimes I'm not always successful. I get drawn into things that I don't think are that necessary. Sometimes I look for diversions, but not too often. But when I have a stability of self, and for me, in a kind of a fundamental way, I bumped into an awareness that I like for myself, kind of recognizing that in my core that I've got some qualities that are important: peace, love, happiness, for example, and how I nurture those is a big part of kind of sustaining myself, stabilizing myself, and embodying that in a concept of eternal spiritual awareness is something that helps me kind of stay centered, stay in that place. And in fact, from that place, recognize that there is so much going on that I don't have to get involved with. I'm going to give you a couple more pictures.
Oh, please do.
Florida, New York, we get hit with hurricanes. And just imagining being in the center of that, calm, peaceful, easy. If I can find a place, and I feel I try that regularly, take some time out to see if I can be at peace, to be in the experience of love, and kind of have that sense that I'm in that eye of the world, of myself, and that whatever's going on around it really doesn't affect me. Now, I can probably drift outside of that center and wander into all that noise and chaos and such and lose myself. And I think a lot of people are caught up in that. And so finding a way into an awareness of who I am, what are my qualities, how do I see myself, how do I want to view the world, it didn't come with just one thought, but over time having that awareness that that's my core, that's my nature, that's how I want to be, allows me to kind of choose what I look at, see the scenes that are important, and move on, skip the spinning.
So what I get from that is you're finding whatever your, well, for lack of a better term, your eternal qualities, that something that you're centering on is something that you can count on all the time. And you go back to that. And if you're in the eye of the hurricane and the hurricane's moving, you have to be able to be agile enough to move, to stay in that eye as the storm's going around you.
Yeah, and I think what's coming to my mind now is storm is around you. Spinning starts everything from something that's stable. You mentioned the North and South Pole. That is the center of the axis of the Earth, and so it spins around that. So that implies that if they're spinning, that there is a place that is stable or
It's true.
in peace or calm, or is not affected by that energy around it. And so seeing ourselves as trying to find that in our personality, in our being, in our awareness, allows us then to be in the world of spin because it's natural, but to recognize that there is this pole, there's this source, there is this center, there is this point that we can also find, which I believe is natural, and step out of it.
That is a very powerful point, that just by knowing that there's spin, it's also inherent by the laws of physics that there's an axis.
Yeah.
And so this is part of, I guess, what the people's spiritual journey, really, no matter where they're coming from, is to move away from the circumference, away from the outskirts, and come to the center.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kind of thinking of it that you're moving fast, the farther away you are. So the faster you feel that you're moving, might give you a guidance and direction on what steps one should take to reduce the flow or the energy or the resistance to get back into that center. Kind of
I've
follow
got to
the
go
path of least resistance.
You know, in either end of the center, like from the top, from the northern end, you have a perspective and you can see the spin. And from the bottom, it's like kind of like a basketball, where it's on your finger, or as in the spiritual realm, like they're using the discus.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is that I'm centered, and therefore I know how things are. This spin is known. So what you've just given me a mathematical version of a spiritual concept of spinning a discus of realization for oneself, that where there is spin, there is also a center.
Yeah.
That makes me feel better knowing that.
Yeah, but it's kind of this is how things sometimes work, a little insights when we play with the concept, because that idea that, yeah, this is what nature is. I guess it's like light and dark, that nature is full of light, but it gets dark when things move or spin in a certain direction, and we're away from that. And so it's possible, probable, that we all end up spinning away from what is true and what's important, what is known for ourselves. And that part of our life's journey is to, if we want, figure out where that core and truth of ourselves is, and move ourselves out of the spin.
So in order to maintain balance, the faster the spinning, the more centered I have to be in order to maintain the balance before I fall off my axis altogether.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
It does. Go ahead.
Well, there's just another, this is aging, but used to play music, still do. It's a meditation center. And we had a huge collection of cassette tapes.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah. And if you ever look at those, your younger audience might not know about this technology, but you would start with all the energy, all the tape on one side, and it would go through a center, and then it would kind of get picked up on the other reel. And at the beginning, the big side moved very slowly, and the little one moved very fast. Even though it was a constant rate, that there was a difference depending where you were and what you were involved with, how you saw, one was moving very fast and one was moving very slow, and then it switched. And then at the very end, the music side that went very fast and the collecting reel went very slow. And that sense of time is relative and where we're at and how we see ourselves are additional interesting questions that I see with this spinning, that sometimes it can
Oh,
feel fast and feel slow, and we're caught up. And I find that I come and do some work, and if I am not stable, my mind spins. Oh, I've got to do this, I got to do this, this. And before I do anything, I'm tired, and it's like, oh, this, I'm going to go home. But when I kind of say, okay, now let's take a deep breath or center myself, and I pick up something and it goes very easily, and I've got lots of time left over. So my mindset is kind of one of the axis or cores of how I see and how I spin. A lot of it's in my head, how I'm looking at something. And so that sense of centering myself and finding myself makes me go through the day with a lot less wasted energy that spinning disc is in my brain.
right. I don't have to justify my spinning by saying, oh, I have to be a part of this world. I have to live in this world. I really am more effective when I have some stillness to me. And I, we're of the same vintage, because I've used that same metaphor of the cassette tape. And just with time in general, like you notice in your own life, that this pace of time, would you say, is a steady state? It moves slower, or speed gets faster?
I'm thinking it's moving faster at this time. And part of it is the amount of information that we are expected to process makes it feel very fast, because it just keeps coming. I'll tell you a little secret that I like to know what's going on in the world. And so I was reading an article, and they made a reference a while ago to TikTok. I thought, okay, what's TikTok? And so I joined that, and I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. And then I realized that there's like millions of people putting up millions of stuff. It's like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm like, so I canceled that. I said, this is not for me. If there's something really important, someone will send it to me. But I have no inclination of affecting the world through my short little videos.
It's just the speed is even going. There's a fact that shows that the speed is even increasing. And it's not like watching a movie. It's like there is a countless number of movies spinning around all the time. And if you go out there, it's a rabbit hole that you could get lost in. And I'm sure that's what you discovered, that it's not worth the trouble of even going in. And so to come back.
Way too much information, way too many stories. And that's a big part of it. What's my life about? What do I want to do? How can I lead my life in a world that is, a tidal wave? It's bludgeoning, the amount of things that go on. It's very hard for me to keep in touch with a few people, let alone know what millions of people are doing. And so,
well, everyone's looking for some type of satisfaction, and then you get a little bit of something, but it doesn't last long. No. But toward the core, I think the efforts are rewarded more heavily. You get more out of it because you're not wasting energy. It's just not energy efficient to be spinning around all that time. I just look at it from a very practical viewpoint.
Yeah. Once in a while, it's okay to get a part of the world, but for me, that reminds me that I can't do this for very long. This isn't what I'm for right now, and so I need to get back and find that sense of self and truth. And it's kind of like being in, for me, a nice, comfortable chair at home. I've got something to eat, I've got something to drink, the heat's on, And I can just pause and say, you know, I'm okay. And
You know, and it's being like that in the eye of the storm. You know, I think that's what I'm looking for, is that I don't want my comfort to be vulnerable to what's going on around me, because I realize that it's going to be spinning. You know, I have no control over the spinning, but I have to remain stable. And so I'm looking for methods to increase and make easier finding the stability.
yeah, yeah. One of the things that I do know in that easy, comfortable spot is that there is a pull. I should do something. The world's got problems. I should, you know, whatever it's going to be. But I also recognize a deeper concept about myself, is that my thoughts are very powerful and they create an aura or a vibration. And so for me to be still and reinforce kind of that quality or that place is actually like giving people the opportunity to find that for themselves. Instead of me going out to fix them or the world or the situation, even though there's a need for help, the help that I can provide best personally at this time is to be peaceful and create that so that that energy is more available or sensible or available to someone to find.
You're putting knowledge into practice. You know, and now that the time, you know, we've agreed that time seems to be spinning faster, and going back to this mathematical equation, that means that I have to be even more centered. The center that I've had in the past, the centering that I had, you know, in 1965, isn't the same in 2025. It's a faster speed, so I've got to be more grounded, not just for myself, but like you said, but for my world that I affect, you know, whatever. So it's even more important for me to find this stability, this peace really is what it is, I guess, is what stability is peace.
Yeah, I think so. I heard it's when we're young, each hour, each minute is a bigger chunk of our life, and so therefore it feels longer. And as we age, each hour and each minute is a smaller part of the whole, and so it seems to move much quicker.
You've just described the cassette tape.
Yeah,
It's exactly that.
yeah. And so one of the things that I've been told and I believe in very much is do the important things now. Okay, whatever you think that might be, don't wait to do something good for the self. And I'm talking on a spiritual level, find peace and those types of qualities, because that will help everything else. It's a great foundation for me.
You know, that's a perfect timing segue into do what's important now, because, you know, now why don't you lead us through a centering exercise, which the world might call meditation.
Right.
And really what it is, it's just the spin of thinking, but at the speed that you find. So you take us through, if you would.
Just for a few minutes or something?
Say 3 minutes.
Okay, let's see what we can do with that. And you can shout at me if I go too long or whatever, but
okay.
I like to take a deep breath first. So I'm going to ask you and myself and everybody else that might be in earshot to take a deep breath. And exhale and see how that helps you bring your attention to the present. One more deep breath. Slowly at your own pace, exhale and breathe again. But when we breathe, we bring our thoughts and our attention into the present moment and away from other thoughts, other things in the world, very important, pressing, but they will wait. They will wait while we bring our thoughts into this space, into this moment, and into the awareness that in my core, in my center, I have the experience of peace, bliss, love. And now I visualize that spinning hurricane around me, but I'm in the center. I am at peace. The energy of the world continues, but it is me who is helping to allow the qualities of the center to emerge for anybody else. I focus my awareness on my true nature of a peaceful being. And as if the world is spinning around me right now, I find that center, that core, that axis of truth, of who I am. And anything else outside of me is drawn into this space. And I feel content, comfortable, and capable to find this place so that whatever I do in my life, I've got the center. I've got the place where I'm able to be at peace, have a clear intellect, and know myself and what's best for myself. Energy moves, there's always going to be spin, there's always going to be a situation. But when I can find my center, find the peace, I have the clarity to know what's best for me in any situation. Time will move, the world will spin, and our life is to find the truth at the core of our being. You can breathe again. And for those who know, Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. That was like a refueling stop, you know. And during your commentary, the sense that I was getting, the feeling that I was having inside was trust, a feeling of trust that I don't know exactly where the spinning is going to take me or anyone or the world, but I do know that this action of centering is good, and it made me feel secure. And there's a sense that everything's going to be okay, you know. So really, it's down to trust, and that's a wonderful. It's no different than a child hearing a bedtime story and feeling good afterward.
That's right. Well, we should all hear bedtime stories. That's
it's wonderful. Well, Brother Erik, it's been a pleasure.
It's been
just
wonderful.
Chit-chatting, just a little chat with you. You know, there's so many benefits to this, just for hopefully other people, but just for myself, I find there's great benefit in doing it.
Good. Well, thank you for having me. And this has been inspirational and allowed me to kind of spin some of my thoughts off and see where they might go.
And I'm going to be thinking of them. Thank you very much.
Great. Okay.
And we'll see you again.